This summit will come up with consensus, recommendations, deliberations, and solutions.
National COVID-19 Summit opens in Abuja with Nigeria expressing strong commitment to global agenda to end pandemic by December 2022. Vice President Osinbajo arrives Dubai ahead World Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association Forum. FIRX considers inclusion of all generated revenues in fiscal accounts and annual statistics.
The FIRX non-oil tax collections for 2020 and the collection so far in 2021 is higher than the tax from oil.
This is NTA Network News. I am Kene Ima Aboliken. We are live in Abuja. Adeola Komiakere joins from Lagos studio. President Muhammadu Buhari sent warm felicitations to President Adama Barrow of the Gambia over his re-election for a second term of 5 years. The president congratulates the Independent Electoral Commission for dutifully handling the electoral process and commended the Gambians for their high sense of civility, maturity and patriotism. President Buhari assures President Barrow and all Gambians of Nigeria's commitment and partnership as they collectively work towards making the country better and stronger for posterity. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, to participate at the World Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association Forum, where he will be delivering the keynote address. State House correspondent Jide Odifade reports.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and his entourage are here being received on arrival by the head of the Nigerian consulate in Dubai, Abu Muhammad. World leaders, top government ministers from several countries, and chief executives of major multinational corporations in the liquefied petroleum gas sectors will be attending the week-long 2021 World LPG Week from Sunday through Thursday this week, under the auspices of the Paris-based World LPG Association. The Vice President will be speaking on Tuesday at the forum, which is expected to attract over 2,000 delegates from 72 countries on the theme of the LPG Week, Energizing Tomorrow. Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, Laulu Akonde, speaks on what this means for Nigeria.
An event such as this, where you have, people around the world, over 72 countries, the industry experts, the stakeholders, public sector, dealing with the issue of liquefied petroleum gas, it creates an opportunity, for us to also interact on a global level to ramp up, productivity in our own country, so that our people will have more access to energy at an even more affordable rate. So this is important for our people to get into the conversation, to open our doors wide, to the engagements and even the investment in that particular sector, all for the purpose and the benefit of our people.
The Vice President is expected to back in Abuja on Thursday. In Dubai, United Arab Emirates, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
In the meantime, the federal government says it is embarking on various initiatives under the national policy on gas to reposition the country as destination for investment in gas value chain. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Timothy Silva stated this during the inauguration of 100 metric tons of LPG storage and bottling plant in Katsina State, developed by Butane Energy with equity investment by the Nigeria Content Development Monitoring Board. Awal Haliru reports.
Available data from the National Gas Expansion Program shows that the level of LPG utilization in the northwest is about 4% compared to about 14% in the southwest and 15% in the southeast. This development informed the partnership between the ministry through the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board and the Bhutan Energy Limited to increase the level of LPG utilization in the north. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Tumi Silva, represented by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, says the deliberate focus of the federal government to develop the gas sector is a driving force for the various gas-based initiatives in a bid to accelerate economic development.
The economy of the state and indeed the Northwest and the whole of Nigeria will benefit from socio-economic spin-offs associated with the gas value chain.
We pride ourselves in promoting Nigerian hydrocarbon value chains and support the realization of projects.
The chairman of the Bhutan Energy Limited, Isa Inua, noted that more LPG plants will be rolled out in other northern states for environmental benefits and job creation.
See how we could, master how we could find jobs for our people.
Katsina State Governor Aminu Bello Masari described the initiative as a welcome development.
People should be looking more at what can I do. And our educational system also has to really start mentoring people to be self-employed.
During an inspection of the gas plant, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources through the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board appreciate Katsina State Government for providing enabling environment for speedy completion of the company in the state. In Katsina, Awan Haliru, NTA News.
Despite ongoing reforms aimed at expanding the nation's tax net for better revenue generation, the Federal Inland Revenue Service is also considering the inclusion of all revenues generated on behalf of federal, state and local governments in the fiscal accounts and annual statistics. This was disclosed by management of the Revenue Service at a National Tax Symposium in Abuja. Betty Adams reports that the event, organized in partnership with Usmanu Danfodio University, Sokoto, has the theme Taxation and Challenges of External Shocks, Lessons and Policy Options for Nigeria.
It is a gathering of public and private sector financial managers, and the conversations center on tax administration with focus on reforms, raising capital for infrastructure development, as well as considering ways of improving the ease of doing business and survival of MSMEs amid COVID-19 shocks.
Some stories abound about how businesses relocate to other West African countries using the ECOWAS treaties and all that to come back into Nigeria. But guess what we lose? We lose the personal income tax, we lose the corporate income tax, and we lose other things as well.
I'm glad to note that the FIRS non-oil tax collections for 2020 and the collection so far in 2021 is higher than the tax from oil.
For the FIRS management, they believe that for the country to achieve meaningful and sustainable growth in tax revenue, there is need for continuous reform of operations and processes.
There is also the need to comprehensively bring all the national and subnational revenue sources into consideration to properly and appropriately determine the correct and meaningful tax to GDP ratio for the country.
Organizers say at the end, recommendations reached will be put to use for sustainable growth. Benny Adams, NTA News.
Nigeria is unrelenting in its commitment to building a more robust and resilient economy that is less dependent on oil and reliant on its own goods. Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment, Marian Katagun, gave the federal government's policy stance at the opening of the maiden edition of the Enjoy Nigeria Expo holding in Abuja. Bosade Abel reports.
The expo, put together by Welcome to Nigeria project in collaboration with the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and the Ministry of Information, with the theme A Future Assured Through Cultural Creativity, seeks to attract more investors to the Nigerian economy.
It is pertinent to note that the Nigerian economy, under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, has now been fully diversified away from oil and gas. A lot of nations in the world actually survive on their cultural heritages.
That we've formed a platform for all categories of businesses, promote their goods and services.
INEX 2021 is also a platform to draw the attention of the world to Nigeria's untapped sectors that include creative, cultural, entertainment and tourism.
We felt that, of course, if we initiate an expo, a platform, then we'll be able to draw those the world doesn't know from the rural area, and that can only happen when we have a platform of this nature, Enjoy Nigeria Expo.
More than 10 states have indicated interest to participate at the expo, where various made-in Nigeria products will be on display. In Abuja, Boss Ede-Abo, NTA News.
Let's now tell you that a frontline Nembe ethnic sociocultural group, Nembe Congress, wants the federal government to officially designate the massively impacted oil spill areas in Nembe a major disaster zone. The call comes on the heels of increased devastation of the environment and the people from the Santa Barbara oil spill in Nembe local government area of Bayelsa State. Baratu April Away reports.
And Nembe Congress is deeply concerned that it is over a month since the Santa Barbara High Pressure Wellhead 1 under OML 29 at Warikumakiri in Nembe local government area has been spilling out crude oil and gas into rivers and creeks following a blowout. The group, made up of sons and daughters of Nembe Kingdom, staged a protest from Ekeki Ultra-Modern Motor Park to the NUJ Press Center, Yenagoa, with placards inscripted, Nembe Lives Matter, Clean Up Our Environment, ITO, Nembe Needs Help, amongst others, calling on ITO Eastern Exploration and Production Limited to ensure transparency and accountability in all matters concerning the disaster.
Arguably the biggest oil spill disaster in the history of oil and gas exploration and exploitation in Nigeria. Unfortunately, there appears to be no immediate respite in sight for our people as the affected company, ITU, Eastern Exploration and Production Limited, does not have the capability or necessary assets to contain the situation.
The group is calling on ITO Exploration Company as a matter of urgent public importance to ensure quick capping of the spill and begin comprehensive cleanup operations in compliance with global best practices. In Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, Baratwaipre Awe, NTA News.
The massive infrastructural development journey of the federal government is becoming visible for roads as government is opening more completed highways to commuters in different parts of the country. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that this is the fallout of its unrelenting commitment of resources and painstaking supervision.
With an integrated infrastructural development plan as its guide, a conviction to complete all abandoned road projects with an aggressive approach to building new ones, the federal government under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari sets out. The man responsible for overseeing the implementation of the master plan goes about with an eagle eye, supervising the quality and ensuring compliance to standards. From south to east, north to west and the center, he crisscrosses, keeping contractors on their toes. So his principal, the president, monitoring from afar. Now it's time to deliver to Nigerians the dividend of the investment on infrastructure. Up north, Sokoto Tambol, Jega Kwantagora Makera Phase 1, 250 kilometers, is done and dusted. Subsequent days, emissaries of Mr. President gave green light to commuters on Vendekia in Benue to open the cattle ranch in Cross River State. Newe Uduma Uduru Road, Section 1 and 2 in Ebonyi, Enugu State, also opens. Kano Meduguri Dual Carriageway, Sections 2 and 3, awaiting formal opening. But the icing on the cake is the evolution of the second Niger Bridge, now close to completion.
And of course, we have to extend our appreciation to the confidence reposed in the management of this ministry by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, and our Minister Babatunde Raji Fashola for entrusting us the responsibility of implementing the policy direction of this administration. It has been good, quite difficult and challenging having regard to the long neglect of the sector over the years.
The highways with the little torches to harvest time includes the Abuja-Kefi Makodi, Abuja-Lokoja, Abuja-Kaduna Kano. These and many other are expected to be completed in the near future. In Abuja, Abdullah Muhammad, NT News.
We pause for some messages now. The news continues shortly. Do stay. Welcome back as we go to the National Assembly, where the Senate Committee on Health has called for the suspension of the 6-month mandatory attachment program for medical students trained abroad. At an engagement with the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, the committee insists on adequate justification for the program. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onkwo reports.
Senate Committee on Health has engaged the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria on the 6-month mandatory attachment program and fees charged foreign-trained doctors. The committee urged the Medical Council to blacklist any foreign medical school abroad that did not meet its accreditation criteria instead of subjecting the students to hardship when they return.
Be able to eliminate what is seen by many of the participating students and their parents and guardians as a kind of frustration or a sense of something being blocked.
By the time the 6 months is over, they will set up a mock exam and assess the candidates.
The committee insisted that the council must provide justification for why it is mandatory and why they are restricting the location for the exams.
You cannot make it mandatory. Make it optional because some of the students will pass.
The Medical and Dental Council had informed the committee that some Nigerians who studied medicine in Eastern Europe are not doing well. The Clean Nigeria Agency bill has been subjected to public hearing. The bill, sponsored by Senator Clifford Odia, has passed second reading.
Nigeria is the leading nation in the world with the highest number of people practicing open defecation.
We already have similar agencies existing in the various states, and even if we are going to set up an agency, a similar body at the state level, there are going to be clashes.
The Ministry of Finance, Society for Water and Sanitation, and the organized private sector on water, sanitation and hygiene, and all other agencies invited concurred on the need to eradicate open defecation in Nigeria, but differ on the creation of a new agency, describing it as a duplication of roles.
Apart from this duplicity of agencies, we are burdened with the excessive cost of governance right now.
So we, as a Ministry of Environment, we have what it takes to handle sanitation in Nigeria, and we've been doing that.
Why are where we are? Isn't it shameful? Isn't it, a country like Nigeria is the highest practicing this open defecation and urination?
From the National Assembly, Ignatius Onkwo, NTN News.
Nigeria has expressed a strong commitment to the global agenda to end the COVID-19 pandemic by December 2022. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, at the opening of a national COVID-19 summit to review Nigeria's response to the pandemic, said the legislature will make budgetary provisions to fight the pandemic and implement recommendations from the summit. Betare Ben reports.
2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, various actors and players in the national response are gathered at this summit to identify successes, gaps, and lessons learned so far. The pandemic took the world by surprise, but also revealed the resilience of Nigerians as a people, and the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 has resolved to leverage on modest achievements to strengthen Nigeria's healthcare delivery system.
There is need for openness and frankness. Where we've done well, applaud us. Where we have not been able to meet up to the expectations of our people, remind us.
I believe that this summit will come up with consensus, recommendations, deliberations, and solutions.
Global health security must be built on the foundation of our national health security, and our national health security must be laid on the foundation of the individual and personal health security.
But our work here is not yet done. The United States continues to work with Nigerian stakeholders to prevent, detect, and respond to COVID-19 and to ensure this response is both effective and coordinated.
The National Assembly is concerned about developing an accountability framework for COVID-19 response and health security in Nigeria.
Whatever is necessary will be provided for Nigeria to continue to fight for the pandemic and beyond it. And I like that applause. But there is a condition, a caveat, that those who will be giving those funds need to provide the kind of prudence that is necessary. The economy, the efficiency in the deployment and application of those resources.
The summit's blueprint for Nigeria's pandemic recovery, reconstruction, and health security will be passed on to Mr. President. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the federal government has reacted to Britain's decision to put Nigeria on its red alert list of COVID-19, describing the decision as discriminatory. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed stated this at a media briefing in Abuja. Anthony Forson reports.
The decision by the British government to put Nigeria on the red list just because of less than 24 cases of Omicron, which, by the way, did not originate in Nigeria, is unjust, unfair, punitive, indefensible, and discriminatory. How do you slam this kind of discriminatory action on a country of 200 million people just because of less than 24 cases?
The minister maintained that the travel ban slammed on some African countries is no solution to the problem.
Let me use this opportunity to highlight the fact that travel ban, the type that has been slammed on some African countries, is a knee-jerk reaction that can only be detrimental to our quest to most conclusively tackle the pandemic. Why can't the world take a serious look at the issue of access to vaccine and ensure that it is based on the principles grounded in the right of every human being to enjoy the highest attainable standard of health without discrimination?
Insisting that vaccine monopoly is at the root of derailing the fight against the pandemic, as countries with enormous resources have resorted to hoarding the vaccines, denying smaller countries access to it. In the meantime, the Presidential Steering Committee has issued a revised protocol to guide travelers. With effect from the 5th of December, the minister was emphatic that whatever decision to be taken on the pandemic must be scientifically driven. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And still talking health, more non-state actors have continued to strengthen partnership with governments to flatten the curve of COVID-19. The latest is the MasterCard Foundation, where intervention of more than 65 million vaccines of Moderna brand has hit the shores of Nigeria to sustain the fight against COVID-19 surge. Abubakar Akwanga reports.
65 million vaccines purchased by MasterCard Foundation in collaboration with African Center for Disease Control touched the Nigerian soil Monday last week for reinforcement of citizens' vaccination against the ravaging coronavirus pandemic. The Moderna vaccines were received by UNICEF Nigeria for cold storage and would be distributed to vaccination centers to meet increasing demand of citizens and for effective response to future outbreak. The initiative is facilitated by $1.5 billion in collaboration with African Center for Disease Control and multinational partners to increase vaccination rates and strengthen non-pharmaceutical measures against the pandemic. President and Chief Executive Officer of MasterCard Foundation, Rita Roy, and Director of African Center for Disease Control, Dr. John Nkengasong, say the first tranche has started rolling in 39 countries. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
The Olu Akinkunmi Pharmacy Education Trust, OAPET, is providing infrastructural assistance for expansion of studies at the University of Medical Sciences, UNIMED, Ondo, as it donates a building for the Faculty of Pharmacy of the institution. Olushola Komolafe reports on the foundation laying of the proposed structure, which is the first in the permanent site of the university.
Established in the year 2015, the University of Medical Sciences, UNIMED Ondo, started with 8 faculties. The foundation laying of this structure, which is in commemoration of the donor's Netwrok birthday, signals the beginning of the study of pharmaceutical sciences in the institution.
That dream revolves around creating a world-class program for pharmacy education that is truly compliant with 21st century, globally competitive, and nationally relevant.
For me, this is a great day. I thank God Almighty, and it's a challenge to all of us, especially those high net worth individuals, to give back to society.
The new faculty, named after Chief Olu Akinkunmi by the Olu Akinkunmi Pharmacy Education Trust.
This must be the first time that his love for community, for Ondo, his love for his profession, pharmacy, his passion for philanthropy, all coincide in one event.
Ondo State Governor, also the visitor of the institution, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, identified productive partnership between government, private individual or organizations as critical in moving Nigeria education forward.
This common approach in leaving a legacy and giving back to society and generation yet unborn is worthy of emulation.
Prospective students are expected to resume academic activities in the Faculty of Pharmacy in first quarter of 2022, the proposed date for the completion of the project. From Ondo, Olushola Komolafe, NTA News.
Now to the judiciary, where the current advocacy on technology-driven justice sector is gathering more steam in the country as the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami San, inaugurates the nation's first virtual courtroom for correctional centers located at the Kuje Medium Correctional Center, Abuja. Olabode Arewa reports that stakeholders in the sector say the development is a significant step towards speeding up the dispensation of justice in Nigeria.
This moot court trial signaled the inauguration of the first virtual court in any correctional center in the country. The venue is the Kuje Medium Correctional Center in Abuja, with capacity for 516 inmates, but currently housing 988. It is a child of necessity arising from the need to decongest the correctional centers and to clear backlog of cases pending in the courts.
It's the enactment and consolidation of the Spirit of Administration of Criminal Justice Act targeted at speedy determination of cases by way of eliminating delays and displacement of denial of justice.
Though that is our plan, the virtual courtroom is something else. It means you can dispense with cases in a jiffy.
The initiative enjoys the support of the Supreme Court of Nigeria and the United Nations Development Program.
With these facilities in place, the issue of frequent adjournment in our cases because of the absence of inmates and other reasons connected thereto would be a thing of the past.
With this inauguration, the Federal Ministry of Justice is set to duplicate same across custodial centers in the country. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
The Federal High Court Abuja has fixed February 22, 2022 for judgment in a suit filed by the Egalitarian Mission for Africa, an organization challenging the eligibility of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar to contest for the presidency. Justice Eyang Ekwo fixed the date after the parties closed their argument. The plaintiffs want Atiku disqualified on the basis that he was not a bona fide Nigerian citizen, having been born in the old Cameroons as at 1960 when Nigeria gained independence. Management and staff of all agencies and parastatals under the Ministry of Information and Culture have extended warm felicitations to the Minister Alhaji Lai Mohammed on his 70th birthday. A statement by the Director General, National Orientation Agency, on behalf of the MDAs, Malam Garba Abari, noted the unbridled commitment to the service of the nation, in spite of daunting challenges, which has made the minister first among equals in the selfless service to fatherland. The statement says, as a lawyer, an outstanding public servant and a public relations guru, Lai Mohammed's vast experience in different spheres of life have made him resilient and one of Nigeria's elders who have remained dogged in the nation's march towards greatness. He also acknowledged outstanding performances as a politician and Minister of Information and Culture, where he has served Nigeria diligently and with courage to face Nigeria's detractors headlong, earning him a reputation as a statesman. The minister praised Almighty Allah to continue to grant Lai Mohammed good health and wisdom in the service of God and humanity. Strategic role of the civil society in achieving safe schools in Nigeria remains critical as Nigeria strives to improve quality and safe education. Abdulrahman Usman Jibrila reports that a 3-day step-down training was organized and facilitated by the Development Research and Project Center in collaboration with the Education in Emergency Technical Working Group supported by the Ford Foundation in Abuja.
To go to the village to convince parents to put their girls in school, it's very, very difficult. And so some of them are getting married. In fact, the girls themselves, they don't even want to go back to school because of what they experience.
Dr. Fatima Adamu is from Nana Girls and Women Empowerment Initiative in Kebbi State, who related her experience on the heels of the abduction of schoolgirls in FGC Birni Yauri. She is among the 50 representatives of civil society groups meeting here. They are discussing on how to come up with new strategies to improve safety in schools, as well as their know-how in engaging government officials to keep schools safe.
Civil society groups will be told and trained on the decisions and recommendations of the African Union Summit on Girls' Education.
You are saying that schools should never stop, but the schools should be made protective. The environment should be made protective to support learning.
Traditional and religious leaders, as a custodian of the grassroots, to deepen communication and mobilizing community to take ownership of the schools, to support government. We
call on the media and also like CSOs to actually hold them accountable and to follow through and monitor that Nigeria implements the plan of action.
It is expected that the ratification of the initiative of March 20th, 2019 by the Federal Executive Council will further strengthen national policy to guide implementation nationwide. Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
Adeola is standing by with more reports. Adeola?
Thank you, Kenny. All non-commercial radio frequency spectrum users that have defaulted or breached regulations of the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy have been given 3 months to regularize their operations and process their licenses or be penalized. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy stated this at the opening of a 2-day sensitization for sustainable frequency spectrum management and development in Lagos. Hengino John Adams has details.
This meeting is part of policy initiative on the operational procedures and guidelines to regulate the use of spectrum in order to discourage illegalities. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ibrahim Pantami, represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, lamented the negative impact of non-compliance with regulations on spectrum management.
Bandits have resorted to using this spectrum illegally, knowing that they cannot use the telephones within some states. How they get it, the military is handling that.
Other areas also highlighted include operational guidelines for issuance of licenses, monitoring and effective utilization of frequency spectrum for non-commercial users, as well as challenges.
Government said this communication equipment shouldn't be bought and sold like that without being type approved, but you see a lot of them bringing it in.
We have the private users and we have those from maritime industry and also aviation sector and the public.
For spectrum which is highly demanded for example, the GSM, the mobile broadband, then you have to employ mechanisms like spectrum auctions.
The sensitization exercise is also expected to educate maritime operators on safety of life at sea, among other issues. In Lagos, Hingino John Adams, NTA News.
Dangote Oil Refining Company has presented scholars to 137 students across secondary and tertiary institutions from its host communities in Ibeju, Lekki in Lagos, although as part of its corporate social responsibility. The company's gesture is based on the belief that education is the passport to the future and investment in this direction yields the greatest dividends. Michael Olaleye reports.
On the investment drive of Dangote Group is a deliberate effort to improve the educational standards of the host communities through scholarship schemes. This program, instituted in 2019, is a direct response to the community's demand when its partnership with Dangote Group commenced in 2016. The Group Executive Director, Strategy, Capital Projects and Portfolio Development at Dangote Group says the initiative falls under the company's mandate of developing future leaders, considering how financial constraint can be an impediment to achieving one's dream.
We want to channel their energies and gain their knowledge, so we are supporting them through the scholarship thing. And as I said, these are all potential leaders for tomorrow. So if good educational background is built up, they can be leaders of the nation as they come up.
In 2019, 51 students benefited across 15 communities in Ibeju. But in demonstrating its resolve to grow with its host communities, the scope this time was expanded to include 118 students from secondary schools in Ibeju Lekki and 19 students from tertiary institutions in Nigeria.
It is a great opportunity and it will be a big relief for my family and myself.
I'm a founder level student of Lagos State University. So during this time, we'll be starting our project very soon. So I think with this fund, it's going to help me so much in a lot of ways.
The monarch of the community wants parents to reciprocate by supporting their children to achieve academic excellence.
The children will be able to contribute in the greater tomorrow to the economic well-being of the community and the state and the Nigeria in general.
Dangote Oil Refining Company is also supporting host communities in Ibeju Lekki in the area of educational infrastructure, training of teachers, and employment opportunities. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
We shall go on another break. The news will continue when we return. Please stay.
Thanks for staying with us. Nigeria records negative foreign trade balance of 3.023 trillion naira in third quarter 2021 as Nigeria Exchange Group stock market opened the week negative. Let's join Musa Abubakar for details on business news.
Thank you, Kenneth. Total trade between Nigeria and her trading partners across the globe stood at 13.284 trillion naira in the third quarter of 2021. Data released by the Statistician General of the Federation, Simon Harry, says total export trade value was 5.130 trillion naira and import trade values was 8.153 trillion naira in the third quarter, indicated a negative trade balance of 3.023 trillion naira. The Statistician General explained that the high import was majorly due to increase in import of motor spirit, gas oil and imported motorcycles.
13.3 trillion naira, with the export component of feed
as 5,130.30 billion naira, while imports was 8,153.79 billion. So from common economics, when import exceeds exports, you are recording a negative trade balance.
In terms of exports, Nigerian export trade was mainly dominated by crude oil, which amounted to 4.026 trillion naira of total export in the third quarter. This was followed by natural gas, floating or submersible drilling platforms, and urea. On the other hand, imports were mainly motor spirit, durum wheat, gas oil, and used vehicles. Now, the stock market, the equities market closed Monday's trading session in a negative territory. The all-share index declined 0.38% at 42,167.91 points, and market capitalization at 21.9 trillion naira. 422.1 million shares value at 4.4 billion naira exchange hands in 5,059 deals. The financial services industry dominated the activity chart, with FBN Holdings, Sterling Bank and Guarantee Trust Holding Company the most traded shares. That concludes business news. The news continues after the break.
Strategic collaboration and effective intelligence gathering and management are now to match the talks in the renewed vigor to clamp down on destructive elements terrorizing the peace and security of the country. This is the resolve of the Nigerian Army at the 2021 Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference, aimed at assessing gains in the theater of war and a retrospect into the future with conference and winning spirit. Abubakar Akwanga reports.
Top brass of the Nigerian Army and other services of the Nigerian military and security agencies are here to salute the courage of the officers of the land soldiers as the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference opens.
We are not gathered here to evaluate and appreciate our activities and efforts so far towards achieving the overall objective of better position the Nigerian Army to face the task ahead.
The focus of the conference is to assess the tremendous successes recorded in the continued battle against terrorist, divisive elements and other internal uprising threatening existing peace in the country.
It is imperative to state that the activities of Boko Haram and Islamic State West African Province are being curtailed to the barest minimum in adherence to the Commander-in-Chief's directives.
Representative of President Muhammadu Buhari and the Chief of Defense Staff commended the Nigerian Army for succeeding in the fight against insecurity.
On the high standard of training and discipline, adherence to military values, effective command and control, observance of the rule of law, and excellent civil-military relations will enable the Nigerian Army to function effectively to bring more glory to our fatherland.
The conference is also to re-strategize and commit more energies and resources towards ending emerging threat to the peace and stability of the country. The Army Hierarchy later embarked on Nigerian Army Research and Development Exhibition for efficient preparedness to sustainable confrontation of state enemies and to enforce the Executive Order 5 of February 2021. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with government and people of Borno State over the passing of former Minister of Mines, Power and Steel, Alhaji Bonu Sheriff Musa. President Buhari, in a statement, also condoles with Borno State Elders Forum, friends and associates of the former minister, who served variously as Minister of Industries 1985, Mines, Power and Steel 1986 to 89, Aviation 1989, Water Resources 1990, and Employment, Labor and Productivity 1990 to 1992. President Buhari affirms that the former minister has contributed to the development of the country and his community, taking up many responsibilities, including Nigeria's ambassador to France. The president prays for repose of his soul, urging the family to find solace in his investment in humanity. And that concludes NTA Network News tonight. Thanks indeed for watching, and do become a star with NTA in the fight against rape and rapists. I am Kenan Ima Abodike. Good night.